I really want to know more about Korean culture, but my relationship with it is just so odd now, and I don't know where to start. Hi. So it's been around 2 weeks since I got back to Seoul. It feels like 2 weeks, yeah. So I did a year of school in Boston, in which I didn't leave Boston at all. Because I've been so acclimated to the Boston environment, and especially away from a foreign country, when I got back, it was like, geez, like, all of the things in the environment that were uniquely Korean in terms of like cultural norms and like design choices and stuff became so much clearer to me. And especially now, because I'm at a point in my life when I'm actively, like very deliberately trying to connect with Korean culture, I started seeing a lot of things about like my relationship with Korean culture that I feel like a lot of third culture people can relate with, especially Korean Americans, but in general, like kids of immigrants, you know. So I wanted to talk about it in this video. So I grew up in California. I went to an American high school here in Seoul, and that was really odd looking back. Everyone in that entire bubble was enveloped from the rest of Korean society. Like everyone and our parents, like everyone that we knew, our work, our social relationships, we were constructing our entire lives within each other, but we would see it because we were in Seoul, around us all the time, in transit, when we go out on the weekends, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I know no one has probably seen this, but it's like the classic animation version of Alice in Wonderland. There's a scene where Shrunken Alice is like in like a glass water bottle, and the water bottle is like swishing through the ocean. And it was swishing around me, and I was looking around, taking it in, but I wasn't actually getting wet. And so I feel like that was my relationship with Korean culture. So during that point in my life, I was really fascinated by it, and I made it a point. I really wanted to celebrate my Korean heritage. I was very lucky, and I knew it, to be in a place where I could access Korean culture so easily. And so when I would look around, I would see a very fast-paced and cosmopolitan, like very competitive, image-obsessed, materialistic, like alcoholic, constantly on the grind, workaholic. I meant to say workaholic, but I meant alcoholic, because it's also very, very, very alcoholic. Like it's extremely alcoholic. It's like no bullshit, very bottom line. It's almost dystopian, like hive mind, like constantly on the cell phone, constantly on the SNS, just plugged in, like super trend focused. And you see it in the way people dress, and you see it in the way they accessorize their like identities, you know? And I really like romanticized it. I was like, oh my god, this is so chic. Like no one gives a fuck about anyone. It's just like, get out of my fucking way. I'm trying to catch the bus, like hopping over like people passed out drunk because you're trying to catch a cab and like get to your appointment on time. You know, that kind of lifestyle is extremely stressful, and it's extremely alienating and, you know, difficult to live. Competition and hierarchy are totally ingrained in the cultural norms, and it's very like, what do you bring to the table and why should I value you? You know, that's chic from a distance, but when you're under that kind of pressure, like no wonder, you know, statistically speaking, like the suicide rates in Korea are not looking too good, especially among young people. And the plastic surgery and the misogyny, that's another thing about this whole thing, is that I'll talk about that later. Whew. Now that I'm like trying to reconnect with Korean culture, and I'm thinking about like everything I know, and I'm taking everything I thought I knew with a grain of salt. You have like the environment of Korean culture, and then you have me. That first layer with the environment I had was from the get-go my family. Outside of that, I don't work here, I don't go to school here, I don't have random Korean friends, and the experiences I've got of Korean society are a function of some things that are just natural to my family. In terms of the media that we consume, in terms of our politics, our class, it's all been informed and provided to me through the channel of my family. And I'm like getting really like skeptical, like almost paranoid of how much I really know about this place. But then again, I guess when you try to understand any kind of culture and any kind of society, you're at the mercy of things that you have access to because of like stratification and personal bias. So how much do we really know? Which brings me to my next point, which is the language barrier, and that's so frustrating. Like sometimes I go to Kyobo Munbo, which is like the largest book store. It's fucking huge. There'll be like aisles and aisles of these beautiful books, and I'll open them and I won't be able to read it. And I can read Hangul like a baby dolphin can read Hangul because it's so easy. But reading for comprehension is really hard because I never went to a formal Korean school. I'm basing this off of organic maturation with the Korean I learned when I was 5. Like I remember being back in Boston, and when all that Park Geun-hye impeachment stuff was happening, all the protests, and I would try to find articles, and I couldn't get through them. Photos of the protests look fucking intense as hell. So I'm like, what is going on over there? And what's more, I don't have enough background knowledge on Korean history and Korean politics, Korean society to make judgments myself. It's hard when you can't interact with Korean people, read Korean books at a level that you feel comfortable with. So I definitely want to learn Korean. It's like I'm missing an entire organ, you know, like eyes or something. That's another thing. So I just realized this in the shower this morning. When I got to like college in Boston, I was like, oh my god, there's so much to take in. I'm so stimulated. It's because everything is in the language I feel comfortable with. I'm getting all this like great input from my environment, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. And the difference is when I'm here, like a small fraction of everything that is here to explore in this beautiful, dynamic, majestic space that I as a foreigner, I as someone who doesn't even feel connected to the space, can see that there's so much here. It's so vibrant and rich, and it's so close. But it's not in a language that I understand. You know, it's like sensory deprivation almost. Like, it's almost kind of boring and numbing to the mind because the stimulants that are available to me in this space are most likely things that I've sought out myself, that I've pursued myself and put into my environment. So the things that I'm actually receiving have gone through the bias of like the things that I prefer, the things that I would have expected to find interesting, not things that happen to me happenstance, not things that I come across without knowing, or even don't want to see, because I get to choose and I get to filter what I consume. That's not a way to go through life. One last thing I want to talk about. So much of Korean culture is so deeply misogynistic and patriarchal. Like separately. So I'm talking about traditional Korean culture, those kinds of norms, but also like today contemporary, modern Korean society is so deeply sexist. For a Korean American person who's interested in Korean culture and is actively trying to like go in and like celebrate her Korean roots, it's really difficult, disorienting, like trying to find your role in it, your place in it, only to see that that my culture still thinks of like grown women as people who have to be taught. Also, like just watching like Korean TV or like just consuming any kind of Korean like pop media, it's like disgusting. It's so sexist. I'll probably save this for another video because it's getting really long, but it makes it really difficult. And it's really, I have no idea how to even go forward because Korean culture today is so deeply in need of some awakening.